Hey, Bulls and Bears, it is Monday, January 2nd, 2023. Thank you for being here. Let's get into the news. We're going to talk about home prices up in Anchorage, Alaska, over $400,000. That's just insane, in my opinion, but most states are overpriced right now, and the housing bubble has reached so far, even out into the great wilderness of Alaska. Also, Twitter is late on their rent. Let's talk about what's going on over there. And we have a very dire prediction that 2023 is going to be a near record for loan delinquencies. U.S. consumers are in really bad shape. Auto loans, mortgage debt, credit card debt across the board. We're going to dissect that. Let's get into it right now. Let's go up to Alaska. North to Alaska. Go north. The rush is on. All right, sorry about that. I had to throw that in there. Anchorage average home price rose to a record $456,000. Higher interest rates starting to cool the market. Cool the market in Alaska, no pun intended. It used to be that the reason for home prices going up so fast, according to real estate agents in many cases, I would hear, oh, everyone wants to live here. The weather's good. There's so many jobs. The city's growing. What can we say about Anchorage, Alaska? I mean, the whole state of Alaska, but Anchorage, Alaska, I'm sure there's a lot of nice people there. I've spoken to a lot of Alaskans over the years. They seem like wonderful people for the most part. But think about this. Prices in Alaska now, especially Anchorage, today are where California was just 10 years ago. So if we look back about a decade, we can see that the median home price in California was right around this range here. And now you have to live in Alaska. And it used to be Alaska was the low cost option for people that just wanted to get out of the hustle and bustle of the 48 states down here and escape to the great wilderness. But now, I mean, how many trees are you going to have to cut down to pay this mortgage on a $456,000 home? Or how many fish are you going to have to catch with the big salmon industry up there in Alaska? I happen to love Alaskan wild caught salmon, but wow, I mean, can you imagine being in Alaska and having this type of mortgage for this value of a home? And take a look at this. It used to be Alaska was thought of as a place to go to and buy a bunch of land and have a whole bunch of space and privacy. I mean, this looks like your typical California subdivision where reach out and touch the neighbor's house, from your own yard. It doesn't look like much privacy or much wilderness or escaping the hustle and bustle of Maine, America here. $450,000, and you have to be worried about being attacked by a bear while going to your potty, out in the backyard. Actually, I read that most houses in Alaska do have working bathrooms and running water, but I did watch this real estate show where a lot of the homes they looked at, not in Anchorage, but in other cities in Alaska, you had a separate bathroom. You had to go outside, and it was more like an outhouse. And basically, a toilet over a hole in the ground is what was basically a glorified porta potty. I almost said glamified porta potty. Actually, it could be if you put some sparkles up on the door and maybe decorated, the top where you're sitting on the toilet and you look up and there's sparkles and stuff like that. What's going on over at Tweeterville? Well, Twitter sued for failing to pay the rent at the San Francisco office. I read this out of several different news outlets. A landlord for Twitter filed a lawsuit late last week accusing the company of skipping out on over $136,000 in rent payments for the 30th floor in California Street there in San Francisco. And actually, I'm surprised that Elon hasn't moved the whole operation over to Texas, like we saw so many businesses leaving California. But yeah, to me, if this is correct, and it looks to be correct because I saw it in several different outlets, this looks to be big trouble for the company. And we could see a lot more people headed to the unemployment line from this company that we've already seen, because we already know that there's been massive layoffs from the company. And I've been reading a lot of stories about people very frustrated at what's happening over there at this social media site. For example, people waiting to get their blue check mark. You're supposed to pay $8 a month now to get your blue check mark. And people waiting for like several weeks and a month to get their blue check mark. So is this a sign of the end for Twitter? Well, we'll have to see. And we know that social media company stocks have taken a pounding. Can you imagine being an investor at this point in this company and you see articles like this, that has to make you very sketchy of what's going to be happening, with the company and what's going to be happening with what's left of your stock. For those that are still brave enough to remain invested in this company. Let's go over here to this article, CNN. 1/3 of world economy expected to be in recession in 2023. 1/3 of the entire world economy, folks. Let me say that again. 1/3 of the world economy. So people just thinking that it's here in the US that, oh, we need to replace this guy or that guy and everything's going to be fine. No, this is a global problem. And people thought I was doom and gloom. Well, the IMF chief is more doomish and gloomish than me, because I didn't think it was even this bad. 1/3 of the entire globe expected to go in recession. How many people think that the IMF is correct, that it's going to be 1/3 of the global economy? Raise your hand. I'm looking. I think it's going to be worse than 1/3 of the global economy. And I think it's going to be worse than a recession. I think it's going to be a depression. But it depends on who you ask. There's people right now that will tell you if they're in a depression. Many people have eviction notices hanging on their doors right now. We just saw another surge here in San Diego. Eviction filings are at a 5-year high. This comes after unprecedented programs to help people out stay in their homes. This comes after billions of dollars put forward for affordable housing. And speaking of affordable housing, mortgage debt is still climbing. Mortgage debt is still climbing. You would think that if they wanted to stop home prices from going up, which is part of inflation, they actually don't count that in the official CPI number or the Consumer Price Index. But home prices, high home prices, if they really want to stop them from going up or make them come down faster in this case, what they would do is they would restrict banks from loaning out so much money. But just the opposite is happening. We see now that the government is backing bigger loans through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're now backing $1 million+ mortgages, which is a change to the higher side. So it just shows you that they're really not serious about deflating the housing bubble. Sure, it's deflating some, but if they really wanted to deflate it, they would stop these lending practices, and they would actually make banks have some money put aside to cover these loan losses. Next, Reuters, U.S. consumer loan delinquencies seen surging to a 13-year high in 2023. So I'm not the only one here saying that 2023 is going to be a very, very eye-opening year, so to speak. And let's see, 2023 minus 13 years, that takes us back to 2010. That was actually the right in the middle of the recession, which started about 2008 with the housing market beginning to come down. We know that things really didn't bottom out until 2012. So this, again, 13 years ago, takes us back to 2010, during the middle or the trough of the Great Recession, or what many people refer to as the financial crisis. From the article, surging loan delinquencies will follow a year in which consumers loaded up on credit. You notice how they call that credit. Credit is actually debt. The flip side of credit is debt. TransUnion said in a study, Americans took out a record $87 million in new credit cards and $22.1 million in personal loans in 2022. Folks, a new record, much worse than the financial crisis. Now, quick announcement here for this channel. What we're going to do is we're going to focus more on how to navigate what's happening. We all know how bad it is out there, but when we look at how bad it is, that looks at the entire population here, and we have to look at the people that really aren't navigating this to their best ability, for lack of a better term. But I think the people here on this channel, actually most of us here, because we know what's happening, we're much more likely to benefit from what we're going into. We can't be negative about everything when most of the people don't even pay attention to what's happening. They have no idea how the banking system works, how the economy runs, and so therefore they get blindsided by these changes in the economy, with the job losses, with the layoffs, and the things that happen along with that, with the falling prices in some areas, in this case rising prices in other areas. Remember, back in 2008 we saw a decline across the board in just about everything. Fuel prices came down big time, home prices, rents came down, just costs came down. It was deflation across the board. Now it's going to be a little more complicated. We're going to see inflation, higher prices in some areas, and others going to be deflation. But the big areas that have deflation are things that most people have to buy getting loans, and with higher mortgage and interest rates, it's going to be even more expensive if you have to finance these things. So the key is going to be cash. If you're a cash buyer, again, you don't have to worry about rates being higher. Look at the housing market. For those that do finance a home for the full 30 years, you end up paying what, 3.5 times, maybe even 4 times of what the home is actually worth by the time it's through. So for a $300,000 home, if you add up all the interest over 30 years, you're paying over $1 million in most cases. So the bigger down payment you have and the lower principal balance you have to pay off, that's going to be, one of the keys to success in this upcoming economy here in 2023 and beyond. So in this channel, we're going to kind of turn more towards a solution-based content channel here. So more solutions, more ways to save money, including just little things that add up if you do them in several different areas. Like I talked a few videos ago about how we changed our cell phone company, saved $30, $40 a month there, started making coffee in a different way instead of buying these K-cups. That's just a few examples. And you got to add it up, right? So $30 a month may not seem like a lot, but add up $30 a month over the year, you're looking at about $360. And then do that in 10 different areas, save $30 a month, $360 a year on 10 different areas or 10 different things: your cable bill, your water bill, your electricity bill, your car insurance, your food expenses. Do that in 10 different areas. Now, instead of saving $360 per year, now you're saving $3,600 per year. And that can really add up. There's a saying out there that I heard that a small leak can actually sink a great ship, something like that. So it may not seem like a lot, but if it happens every day, if you're buying that $5, maybe two $5 coffees every day, you add that up and it's thousands of dollars a year in many cases. And then people wonder when the end of the year rolls around why they don't have more put away in savings. And it's the little frequent things that can actually add up over time and put a lot of people in a bad position. But hopefully us here on this channel, we're going to be better prepared from an investment standpoint, from a money-wise standpoint as well, and just knowing what's ahead of us here. So I hope everybody liked this report today. What do you think about Anchorage, Alaska? Median home price $450,000 plus. What do you think about Twitter? Can't pay their rent. Looks like a bad sign for me. But the entire sector of the tech sector is actually hurting right now. So it's going to be interesting. Also, what do you think about the IMF prediction? 1/3 of the entire global economy is going to be suffering this year. And what do you think about the prediction of the 13-year high in loan delinquencies here for consumers, for people here in this country? Doesn't look good, but I think we're going to be on top of it and we're going to be just fine. Stay tuned to this channel for more financial economic news and ways to prepare and navigate these rough, strange economic waters. Trying to think of my words today, everybody. Thanks for being here. Big love. Bye for now. Peace. Keep stacking. Keep stacking.